Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, back here at Davidoff of London, one of my favorite places, a refuge of civility, with, of course, my good friend Eddie Sahakian. And we're very honored to be joined by someone new to the channel, Sam Reuter, of course, from Davidoff of Geneva. And Sam, you are the global head of product innovation.
Yes.
And so it is you who we really have to thank for a lot of the incredible Davidoff releases that you've indulged us with, really over the last decade.
Thank you, Kirby. It's really a pleasure to be here also with my friend Eddie and to have this nice experience together with both of you.
I have to admit that the idea for tonight's tasting came from seeing a post on Eddie's Instagram on the Davidoff page for the Oro Blanco at the Emery Hotel, which has an absolutely stunning lounge overlooking Hyde Park. And I was sick with envy, thinking, well, if I was only in London. But I thought to myself, I'm actually going to be in London in a few weeks. So I tried my luck. I messaged Roy Summers, the UK rep, and said, I've got an idea for a video. And I think that he was very accommodating and drafted you into coming to join us, yes, so that we could enjoy what is probably one of the most significant releases, certainly from Davidoff. I mean, it's hard to even compare them. They're all so incredible. But of the Oro Blanco, which is the premium of premium cigars. So I guess talk to us about this. We've got an incredible cognac that we're going to be pairing with this as well. But I mean, this is a cigar par excellence. And I know that this was your baby, so please indulge us with the story.
Thank you, Kirby. Yes, it's a pleasure. I have to say that I'm not the only one, so there is a team behind, but we do our to craft hopefully the best cigars. So this new Oro Blanco, so it's basically a second edition. So we have launched the first edition in 2014. Again, limited. And here we have a beautiful box. It's solid wood, so it goes a bit like to the old edition, but we focus on different color tones of the wood. Should remind one of a tobacco leaf. And this nice iron trace here, a bit of a sunshine. So you see here, this is a box of 10 cigars, and I like it. It's this click and push, how to open it. And I would love to offer you one cigar.
Wow. Well, this is a real treat, as we'll learn about. I mean, this is probably one of the most rare and exclusive cigars coming from Davidoff.
It is.
Which is saying a lot, considering that Davidoff is really at the peak of that pyramid already. This is incredible. Wow. So, thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. And I'm looking really forward to this experience. Eddie, my dear friend.
Sam, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
May I return the favor for you and hold the box for you?
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice.
Wow, look at this. I mean, this is incredible. And I mean, I have to say, Davidoff's packaging, I mean, the cigars are incredible, but the packaging over the last, 5-10 years has really just, continued to outdo itself every year. Whenever you think that it was not possible for Davidoff or anyone to come up with more impressive packaging, you somehow seemingly, come up with a trick and outdo yourself. And this particular packaging is, I guess on par in terms of honoring the cigar that we're about to smoke, because it's a very special cigar.
It is, and I'm love to talk more about it. But yes, packaging goes with it, and I'm always proud to say that everything is developed in-house, within my team actually, and getting these comments, it's very much honoring ourselves. And obviously we try packaging the cigar that it goes with. It should match the story of the cigar. It's basically the home of the cigar, so the cigar also should feel welcome, and feel at home.
Well, I know that we have a lot of ground to cover, so if it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and light.
Yes.
I can't resist any delay.
Gentlemen, in this pause while you're cutting, may I just take the moment to say, on my father and my behalf, what an honor and privilege it is for us to have you, Sam, and you, Kirby, here in our store again, smoking this extraordinary cigar. So thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your time with me tonight.
Oh, thank you, Eddie.
Well, and thank you for coming all the way from Geneva.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So you see already here a bit on the wings, especially in the second ring, we have tried to incorporate more this white gold, so that it's basically reflecting a bit more the brand. This is something that is a change from the previous edition.
And was the previous edition, it was still Oro Blanco, which is white gold.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we have the main difference also in naming. We have Oro Blanco, a special reserve 2002 was the first edition. So we had the tobaccos back from 2002. And now the new edition is called Oro Blanco 111 years.
Okay.
So if you count all the tobaccos in a cigar, you get up to 111 years.
That's incredible.
Yes, it is incredible. And it's A, to have this well-aged tobacco on stock, but the other one is to make a very good blend out of it.
Yeah.
So those are the two challenges that we have faced while developing the new Oro Blanco 111 years. And I'm very much looking forward to what you gentlemen say about the cigar.
Oh, I can't wait. So speaking of the tobacco, so you said 111 years. This is all tobacco grown on Davidoff's farms. And is it a pure Dominican, or
Yes.
is it a blend?
It is a Puro Dominicano.
Okay.
So the same actually like the first edition. So also here we stay true with the Dominican Republic. I think it's also for us important. It is our home. Obviously we use tobaccos from 7 different origins, but Dominican tobacco is our expertise, how to craft the cigars. And that is why we have focused on, again, 100% Puro Dominicano.
Yeah. And this tobacco, in going and choosing the tobacco for the cigar, was this tobacco set aside specifically for the Oro Blanco, after it was first grown? Or, do you just happen to have a library of tobacco that is sitting there and, gracefully aging that, the blenders pull from, when doing these special and limited edition cigars?
I would say, Kirby, it's a bit of both. So we have one of our largest inventory in the world with 2,600 tons of tobacco.
No kidding.
So we have a lot of tobacco aging, but we know exactly which...
Brings a smile to my face. Yeah. Just even hearing that.
What a number.
But we know exactly which tobacco is really made for aging.
Okay.
So obviously this tobacco we then set aside. Sometimes we use maybe just in a blend around 10 to 15% of this tobacco for any limited edition. But in the case of the Oro Blanco 111, we took all the oldest tobaccos we had and crafted this blend. Yeah.
Wow.
Can I ask a question, Sam? It's, despite my dreams, I have never had the privilege, actually except with our 40th anniversary, I've never had the privilege of being in those early stage meetings when I imagine yourself and a few of the wisest counsels within Davidoff gather, and you're tasting potential blends that will become, for example, this Oro Blanco.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, if you can.
No, of course, my pleasure. So that's actually my role. Wow. What I'm doing, so I function between a bridge between global marketing and our master blending competence and our master blenders. And what I try to do is that I try to explain them the idea of the project, of the initiative that we want to launch, and basically they then create the recipe. So in a way, I don't want to influence them too much, because at the end they are also artists, like master blending whiskey or your winemaker. But at the end, they need to be clear what to achieve. Otherwise, if I'm looking for a strong cigar and the cigar is mild, it's not a match. In particular with the Oro Blanco 111 years, obviously the benchmark was very high because of the first edition. And here we said, let us go check all the inventory, which oldest tobacco can we pair, and how can we create a blend that is so unique and so different that we offer today. Right. And so maybe to explain a bit, I then received some samples from the Dominican Republic sent to Basel, where our headquarters is. I'm then also responsible of an internal tasting panel.
Okay.
Important, we have internal people, but also 4 external people. I always say that the cigar should not please my palate, or not only, but also our lovely consumers. So I'm also responsible for leading an internal tasting panel at Davidoff, at our headquarters in Basel. And here important is we have internal people, but also external people. Important is that, of course the cigar needs to please us, but most importantly our consumers. And that is why in this internal tasting panel, we do try the cigar always against the concept what we're looking for. And once we are happy, I then send, we call this a planier, and basically production starts 1.5 months afterwards.
Okay. And how long for something this special does that process take? I mean,
in this particular cigar, it took around 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
It was quite quick, I have to admit, because already, you know, when we first tasted this cigar with so well-aged Dominican tobacco, we were like, all like, oh, wow. We just adjusted some of the percentage of the grade, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it was already since the beginning really like a star was born in a way.
Yeah. Amazing.
So when you're coming across so many different leaves through your panel smoking experiences, different blends, options, varieties, like the whiskey world, do you begin to develop a recollection, sort of photographic recollection of how certain leaves are tasting without needing to go back and taste it? If someone said to you, for example, I want to create this sort of cigar, are you already in your mind going, oh, well, yeah, that'll probably be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Are you able to do that?
I would say in my mind, yes. So there's the but behind. So what we do is, so we create, we call these mono blends. So we use 100% cigars from one variety. It can be San Vicente, Piloto. I mean, we have over 80 different seeds, hybrids that we create ourselves, you know. So we first try this in a mono blend to see how is the tobacco in its purest state, right? So you have an idea about the tobacco. It's like with the wine, you have an idea about the grape. Now, when the magic happens and you combine the tobacco with other tobaccos, and then basically you can still recognize a bit of your tobacco, but it's like surrounded with other tobaccos and you get a different taste profile. And believe it or not, sometimes if we just change one grade from Secco to Visus, it's changing. I mean, it's incredible how the cigar is changing in terms of strength. Why strength? Also, sometimes maybe the cigar is a bit stronger, so the flavors are not coming out that well. So if you go down a bit with the grade, you get more flavors. And this is incredible. I mean, changing wrapper, changing binder, everybody knows, yes, it has a big impact on the cigar. But just changing the grades or just changing the percentage of the tobacco is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to me how the sum is so much greater than the parts, right? I mean, these tobaccos, by combining them together at the hands of a master blender, can take, you know, great tobacco, you know, in their pure form and make it truly exceptional. And I think the analogies to winemaking or, you know, Scotch making of the master blender, you know, using that kind of olfactory or sensorial memory to pull things together to create things that, you know, for the common people like me never could have imagined, is really just awe-inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Eddie, I know you've got another special, you know, bottle right there. You know, talk to us a little bit because, you know, this tasting that Davidoff hosted, you know, at the launch in the United Kingdom at the Emery Hotel or at the Emery Lounge was a special event. I mean, a cigar like this, it was an all-star crowd of people within the tobacco industry in London gathering together to smoke an incredible cigar. But Davidoff also made a very intentional choice in terms of pairing that with something that was also, you know, is equally impressive.
Yes. So maybe to just a little bit about the pairing, because we have so well-aged tobacco in a cigar, what we are proposing is also to pair it with well-aged, can be spirits, you know, it can also be a coffee or tea, but it has to have a certain age in it. Age, as you both know, is giving this elegancy, right, this balance to the spirit, and that I think is important to pair it with the cigar.
And my compliments, Sam, because this cigar, from the first puff for me, I don't know if you think the same, Kirby, it's got a vintage profile without being faded. It's not a sort of, you know, old tapestry of what used to be. It's immediate, it's alive, there's flavor, there's character, but you can taste that it's old.
Yeah, there's none of the initial spice that often I get on a new cigar. It has that subtlety and delicacy to that first puff, which is, you know, Eddie describes that virgin puff as, you know, when it's a truly incredible puff is magical. That's, you know, one of the best, you know, parts of the entire cigar. But it's not always, you know, magical. right? And here,
Yes.
you know, that first puff really was delicious. I mean,
And that was one of my, actually, the question that I had to both of you, is because, so now we have 111 years of tobacco in it. So we have, for example, in the filler tobacco, we have 2 tobaccos 18 years old. 3 of the tobaccos is 17 years old. The binder is 20 years old.
yeah, I was going to ask that question, yeah.
So
How drunk do we have to get you to tell us what binder it is?
I think 1 bottle is not enough. So basically, my question was like, if you enjoy this cigar, can you think back of a vintage cigar? Like, do you think it has the same taste profile like a cigar that you would age 17 to 18 years?
Personally, absolutely. For me, you've hit a really sweet, amazing spot, which is, in our experience of very aged
Yes.
tobaccos and cigars, you always run that risk that the cigar falls off a cliff when it comes to flavor profile and becomes a very one-dimensional and not necessarily entirely pleasant smoking experience.
Yeah.
What you've managed to do here is reference the vintage flavor profiles, but it's alive on my palate.
Yes.
Because that's
Yes.
something you lose in a vintage cigar sometimes, the vivacity on the palate.
I agree.
It's here. So,
agree.
chapeau. I don't know how you've done it,
Yeah.
but it's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it has that vibrancy, right, that hasn't faded,
Yes.
right? And, but it still is, it has complexity, but also one of the things that I really, you know, I'm picking up on is the balance,
Yes.
right? It's an
Yes.
incredibly well-balanced cigar. So it has, you know, some of those kind of softer, more subtle flavor notes that one would expect from a vintage cigar, but it still has that color that we love about new cigars. It's an interesting balance between, you know, articulating that vintage
Yes, I
characteristic
agree.
of the tobacco while still retaining youth and vibrancy.
Yes, perfect.
And that actually brings me really nicely to the cognac. I think, again, a really good step by Davidoff and your friends at Camus. This is the cognac we're talking about. And the challenge for me in the past with really big cognacs, you know, exquisite, extraordinary cognacs, which this is undoubtedly. I'll say a little bit about it. This is the 4.186 or 186 Electrum. Please forgive me for all cognac lovers out there, including Camus. I am a novice when it comes to explaining this, but my own experience of it, it is a very beautiful, complex, rich cognac. Sweeter on the nose than on the palate.
Okay.
Very pyrotechnic on my palate. The 186, like the 111 for the Oro Blanco, is referencing the age
Okay.
of the combined eau de vie, the cognacs
Wow.
that have been blended into this. And the Camus family have gone into the depths of their cellar to really pull out some rare beasts.
Okay.
And Electrum references an alloy that I believe the Romans developed, which was a silver and gold, principally silver and gold alloy with some other trace metals. And they've recaptured those ratios that creates Electrum in the composition of the eau de vies.
No kidding.
I learned all this at the Emery.
Oh, wow. And how many components, like how many elements? So like how many eau de vies are
I
being
wish
blended?
I remembered, but I did consume quite a lot of this the first time, so I'm not entirely sure. But it's remarkably complex.
Yeah.
And the challenge when I drink something like this with this level of complexity and vivacity on the palate is that it doesn't overwhelm the cigar.
Yep.
And I always worry with vintage cigars that if I'm going to be having such a remarkable cognac with it, or any spirit of such true pedigree, will it completely overshadow the cigar? And I was impressed and amazed that, like we're doing today, the cognac was delivered at the right moment in the smoking time of the Oro Blanco.
Okay.
Because I think if we had hit the cognac first, I think it would have muted the enjoyment of those first, maybe the first third, not even the first third, the first quarter. But now we've already developed a cigar on our palate. And for me, it's now perfectly ready to welcome the cognac. So perhaps without any further delay and tantalization, could I invite our lovely sommeliers to bring the cognac to our table. So here we are.
Wow.
The beautiful Electrum cognac. Of course, notice the echoing of the design, the Baccarat decanter for the Camus, here echoed on the glass.
Wow.
Absolutely, you're doing the right thing. Let's start teasing our nose with this.
Nice. Bit of caramel.
Really is quite subtle to the nose.
But you have the sweetness, like you said.
Well, before I take my first sip, I'm going to offer a toast
Okay.
to both of you. Sam and Kirby, thank you so much for being here. To the good life, of course, to the most exquisite cigars and the most wonderful cognac.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, to your very good health.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you, Kirby.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, Eddie.
Cheers, Kirby.
I mean, what a pinnacle moment. This is what it's about: great cigars, great company,
Unforgettable.
and great moments. That's delicious. Wow.
Wow. Elegant. And this long aftertaste. You know, I like this in a pairing. When you take a sip and you have this long aftertaste, and it keeps on evolving, and then you take a puff of the cigar, you know, to see how it mingles in your palate. Wow. It's still there.
Yeah, that is delicious.
And something else that matters for me is the texture, really, of the spirit.
Yes.
No? It's marriage with the cigar, with the smoke in the mouth.
It's beautiful.
Well, the texture of the smoke is, I often joke that, my olfactory is, relatively stunted, but my sense of texture, right, I feel is of my senses the most acute. And, the Oro Blanco has an incredibly soft,
Yes.
almost creamy texture
Yes.
to it. Because, again, sometimes with the cigar, it can be a little bit tight, maybe like a wine that is very tannic, that hasn't aged long enough.
Yes.
The age is really coming through in that just absolutely silky smooth texture.
Yes, I agree. I mean, maybe I can't explain that much because, it's also something that we have done. But I'm so glad that both of you are explaining the same aspects about the cigar that basically we wrote about it. We have this sweetness in it at the beginning, a bit of caramel. We have these creamy notes, and very smooth. And I think the beauty of this also. I haven't talked yet about the format, but we chose a 54x6 Toro format. Actually, the same size than the previous one. Why? Because, as you both know, if you go a bit higher with the ring gauge, you have more impact of the filler tobaccos and binder. And that's exactly what we wanted to have here, Obviously, the wrapper, let's say it's only 4 years old. Wrappers are in general a lot younger because I always sometimes compare the wrapper is a very delicate leaf, I compare it a bit with the Pinot Noir of the Burgundy. Pinot Noir is a very delicate grape to cultivate, the same as the wrapper. So here, the wrapper, we want to use it when it's still a bit younger. But in this case, it's beautiful with the ring gauge that we get this impact from the filler tobaccos and the binder.
How old did you say the wrapper was?
4 years.
4 years. And how many different tobacco varieties are blended into this cigar?
So we have 7 different leaves.
Okay.
So there's 7 different varieties. And what is also important of the cigar, we use tobacco from 5 different terroirs. You know that we have in Dominican Republic, we have 15 different, we call these terroirs, so each zone is different. And here especially we have one zone called the Bonao zone. And Bonao zone, we never use tobacco in one of our blends.
Where is that? Also geographically on the
So
island?
Bonao is basically when you drive up from Santo Domingo to Santiago, you cross Bonao, I would say half an hour before Santiago. Yes.
I drove through there. I think we drove through there because
There is this street of Bonao that sometimes we do a little stop for a little break, and that's exactly Bonao. And here is interesting that we have a hybrid there that we basically only cultivated in Yamasa and the first time in Bonao and never used in any of our cigars.
Really?
Yes, so that's one of the exclusive terroirs we have in here.
And so what was that tobacco being either set aside for or used otherwise? Because I would imagine that this, given the age, couldn't have been the first harvest from that terroir.
It was the first and only harvest, really, yeah.
Really? Okay.
And basically it was sitting aside, especially for this kind of projects, you know. And that is the beauty of having this large inventory, you know. It's really like a huge playground also for our master blenders. And so especially this Bonao terroir is something special. Then we have also tobacco from the Mao zone. Mao zone was very much highlighted in the first Oro Blanco. Then we have Navarrete, which is a little bit behind, further from Santiago. And then we have Yamasa also, so the wrapper is from Yamasa.
Really? Okay.
And we have Piloto. Piloto is a region, at the same time is also a tobacco variety called Piloto. And as I said, to blend all this tobacco is the challenge. Then the 20-year-old binder, what I think is a very romantic point is that it has been grown in our master blender's father's farm.
Really?
So we have harvested this in 2004, and it was one of the tobacco from his father, yes. So obviously he himself is also very emotional about this, to have this tobacco in it, but it's a very nice touch.
Amazing. I mean, it's incredible to me that the tobacco, there's so much variety in the tobacco. I mean, not just in the varieties themselves. I mean, one of the things I think that's really special and unique about Davidoff cigars, especially when comparing it to, say, the Cuban Davidoff cigars, is the variety of tobacco that you have access to produce the blends.
Absolutely.
I mean, in Cuba, you have 4 varieties, right? You know, the ligero, the seco, velado, and then, you know, the capote, the wrapper leaves. Moving to the Dominican Republic has gained, as you said, access to 80 different varieties.
Yes, that is true, and that's why the expertise in blending is becoming so crucial, right? That is why if we count all the varieties we have, so more than 80 seeds from all the different origins, we can make up to 7 million different blends. So yes, it is incredible the varieties of different blends we can do to please the palates of our consumers.
Can I ask a cheeky question?
Yes.
You don't have to tell me what the leaf is, but what would be the oldest leaf in the cigar? Is it the binder at 20 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a binder 20 years, then you have 2 filler tobaccos of 18 years and 3 filler tobaccos of 17 years. Yes.
Interesting. So the 7 would be the 3 filler tobaccos of 18 years.
5 filler tobaccos, the binder and the wrapper.
Yeah, I have to admit, it's almost so good you just want to sit in silence. But we're not going to pass up this opportunity to draw as much out of you, Sam, as we can, as the man responsible for leading the team, right? That has, I have to say, at Davidoff done such an incredible job over the last decade, the 2 decades.
Thank you.
Really indulging the connoisseurship of cigar lovers. I think that element of connoisseurship is something really unique, to the tobacco world.
Yes.
And, Davidoff, amongst all of its peers, I think stands alone, really, in indulging that element of connoisseurship, in creating what have become exceptionally collectible cigars. I mean, of course, in comparing to Cuban cigars, there's always been that element of connoisseurship and collectability, but in the New World, you really don't see it.
Yes.
Except from Davidoff.
Yes. I agree that we are getting there, and that's something that makes us.
I mean, getting there, you're being modest. I mean, you guys have really slammed that ball out of the park because, I mean, I look back to the last decade. I mean, take a look at the Zodiac series, right? I mean, the Zodiac series, I will admit, whenever it first came out, I was really too myopic. And now, every single year, it's only gotten better. And not to say that it needed to improve, but that you guys have continued to outdo yourself, which every year seems impossible. I mean, it must be, I don't envy your job, as you go and think about what you're going to do next year. And now the Zodiac series is something that I collect every year. I mean, I indulge myself in at least 1 box, and the collectability there is a true indulgence. I mean, not just in the incredible blending, but the really creative vitolas, and then of course the packaging.
Yes.
Again,
Yes.
Davidoff really indulging collectors with very creative packaging that complements and adds to the entire experience and packaging, the overall product.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting that you touch base on our zodiac signs. The first one we launched in 2013 with the Year of the Snake. Already there we wanted, again, it's linked to the concept. We wanted to go a bit more understanding this Chinese culture with the lucky number 8. So the octagonal box, the 8 cigars in it. And then basically, if you look at it, it's kind of also like an innovation success story, right? So we had the Year of the Horse, the first 60 ring gauge that we ever made. Then we were experiencing with these red lacquered boxes, people loved it in China, the color red is obviously very important. And over the time, we had to always try to be a step further than the previous edition. Year of the Tiger, where we have pressed the stamps on there was also the first Connecticut wrapper we used on a limited edition. We pressed the stamps on this wrapper to get like the pattern of a tiger.
I mean, that was incredible. I don't know whose crazy idea that was. Can you share how that idea came about? Because that was the first time, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, had ever been done, right? And you look at that and you just think to yourself, wow. Whose crazy idea? Ambitious idea to say, we're going to do something that's never been done before.
Exactly, and I think so. That is one part of our DNA, right? Is this innovation? So this idea was born in our factory in Dominican Republic. Why? Because they try to understand also what we are looking for. So the animal, the tiger. How is the animal? How is the character of the person born in this year? And by looking at the animal, the tiger, they came up with the idea to really duplicate the pattern of a tiger. And I remember when we first saw it, I was like, wow, amazing. And important to say is everything we do is authentic, we would never create anything that is not related to a natural tobacco process. This is very important for us also when we do cask-aged tobacco, it's not that we would spray any alcohol on the leaves. It's all pure fermentation, authentic process.
Yeah.
So when we first had the first samples of the tiger, we were thinking maybe the consumer thinks there's something wrong with the wrapper, because it was a bit okay, we tried to do it, but not yet 100%. And then we said, listen, do really the pattern. Maybe you also use a light color from the wrapper, and then it just looked super authentic, and we're very happy with the result. Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's a really interesting example here of just how the accoutrement, really elevates the entire experience. The cigars are incredible, but you look at the bands, you can really see the additional detail that went into the construction of these bands. You look at the packaging. A cigar like this, which is, not inexpensive, is a special occasion cigar.
Yes.
And the packaging, I think, further enhances the ceremony of opening those cigars, presenting them as you did, so gracefully to us. And then we look at the cognac, that beautiful decanter. And then even the stemware in which we're serving this, I'm just mesmerized by all the facets and the play on light.
Yes,
this, is the same cognac in a different glass wouldn't be the same experience.
I agree.
The same cigars, with different bands or in a different box wouldn't be the same experience. And, Davidoff's, boldness, to really step into that and to really push the limits has always been something that I've, respected.
Thank you, Kirby. I think pushing the limits, yes, but also making sure that the consumer still understands the cigar. I think that is important, right?
Which is another great point.
Especially with the Oro Blanco, this cigar with so well-aged Dominican tobacco doesn't exist. And I'm sure nobody have ever experienced this. You can experience this with Cuba, obviously, because you have these vintage cigars. But Dominican Republic with this tobacco, it has just never been there. So to experience such a cigar with that old Dominican tobacco is something that is quite unique and nobody else has ever experienced before. Nevertheless, we need to make a cigar that you can still understand it, right? that it's not too complicated for you, and that it's easy to filter out flavors and taste this well-aged Dominican tobacco. You know, I think that is something very unique.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that flavor evolution as we're getting there. But before we get there, I just want to, accent that point with, that the packaging is not contrite, right? Because you do see this with other, releases from other brands, where the packaging is almost too catchy. Like it's almost like doing something for the sake of doing it, right?
Yes.
As I often tell my wife, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? It's important, it's important that there's a relevance and a balance. And here I see something that is elegant, it is beautiful, and it is very much very consistent with the product itself. And I think you see it here, you see it with the Zodiac series as well. It's not, it's not flamboyant, right?
Exactly.
There is a purposefulness to it that is coherent.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, thank you for laying this out. I mean, if you look at it, it's a beautiful wooden box, and wood is something that is warm. We know that the cigars are feeling well in touch with the wood, right? Something that maybe I didn't show at the beginning is also that you can personalize the box here on the side, which is also very nice to make it unique. And these are all these little points without being too much in your face or too fancy, but it's very elegant, I think really sophisticated in a way.
And just one point on that personalization. I mean, again, this goes to the thoughtfulness of the packaging. That little plaque is magnetic.
Yes.
So you can pull it off, you can have it laser engraved.
Exactly.
If the box was commemorating something special, or if you were giving it to a gift.
Yes.
And then it can be placed back on. And if it didn't have that ability to be pulled off, you'd never be able to take it to someone laser engraved.
Exactly.
And again, it's just a subtle, very easily overlooked detail that, had you not first pointed it out to us before we started filming, I never would have even seen.
Can I just add, I get that same delight when I open a Davidoff humidor. Because, of course, Davidoff humidors, very understated, sophisticated, elegant. But the details that someone's thought through, for example, the divider that can hold the scissor cutter.
Yes.
Yeah.
The magnet for mounting it on the old ones.
Yes.
That level of detail, someone actually sat there and went, well, where would someone put their cutter? They don't want to have it just sitting on top of the box.
Yes.
Wouldn't they want to have it in the box? And to accommodate that, no one else does that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's one of the benefits of Davidoff being so vertically integrated.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Because you have your own plantations.
I agree.
You do your own packaging. A lot of the packaging is in fact made at the factory in the Dominican Republic. Allows, I would suspect, just more control and more innovation.
So that is a very important point, Kirby, that you touched on. So we have this vertical quality process from crop to shop. So we control each of the 170 process steps to craft a cigar. And it's very important because we know exactly who is responsible for which step. I can tell you for the Oro Blanco 111 years, for example, all the supervisors are touching these tobaccos and cigars. So for example, we have master cigar rollers with an experience of 20 years rolling these cigars. So for
us, one person rolling them all?
No, it's actually it's a couple. Oh. So it's basically only one couple who's rolling these cigars. So we have been very selective in choosing these cigar rollers very carefully with the most experience, knowing exactly, because it's also difficult to work with this well-aged tobacco to make sure that you place the leaves all correctly where they should be. And this is what we trust in them, and to make sure the quality is according to our standards.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that is really on behalf of a customer? I was recently asked, admittedly it was the first generation Oro Blanco, but I think I would like to ask it with this one in mind. This customer walked in, he's dreaming about it, but his budget does not reach to this cigar. Is there either a future project where perhaps you would be able to capture some of the vintage profile and taste notes that you have here in a cigar at a lower price point? Is there a current one in the portfolio where if a customer said, I've dreamt about this my whole life, I can't get that far on budget, what is the next best? Perhaps best isn't the right word. what is the next closest experience I could have in the Davidoff portfolio,
Yes.
what would you recommend to them?
This is a tough question, I have to say, because by using this well-aged tobacco, right, you can't really compare it with, let's say, newer tobaccos. Of course, all our tobaccos, they have a minimum of 5 years of aging. But to get this same stimulation or taste profile that we have in this cigar, I would say it's impossible with any other cigars that we have. Nevertheless, what I think, what our cigars are known for, is that they are ready to enjoy. So we take already the care of our tobacco beforehand by aging them perfectly, doing the proper fermentation, very important. And to be honest, I would really consider them the white band. I think the white band is composed of many Dominican tobaccos, has an Ecuadorian wrapper on it, but it gives you this creaminess with sweeter notes, you know. Here I have, for example, a little bit of dry fruits, but it goes a bit in this direction, but obviously it's not the same, you know. It's like if you compare like a whiskey age of 25 years versus one of 12 years. Maybe you have like a little bit of the direction of the flavors, but this elegancy and this sophistication you can't really get.
Yeah. When were these cigars rolled?
So they have been rolled, we started 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then carefully rolled them, carefully aged them. And we say that only when the master blender deemed that the cigars are ready, he is releasing the next charge of it, yes.
How would you anticipate a cigar like this aging as a rolled cigar?
That is a question that I've asked myself as well. Because already now it's so perfect to enjoy. So I guess it becomes a bit more subtle still, and I was also discussing this with our master blenders. Probably the sweetness will come out even a bit more. I think you have a quite sweetness in there, but getting more subtle. It is already very subtle, but I think we'd still get a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
A little bit, you know. I think it's already perfect, but I would still say it gets a little bit more balanced. I wouldn't say that this cigar is so much, how can I say, really done for aging, because normally aging, Eddie, you know this best, you know, the oilier the tobacco is, the better you can age it, right? So here we have oily tobacco, but not like entirely, like for example, we have with Nescurio or with a Yamasa perfectly to age. So what do you say, Eddie? You have more the expertise also in aging cigars?
Yeah, I concur very much with what you've said. With Davidoff cigars in particular, the advantage of aging is minimal. If you want to put it as an advantage, you don't need to.
Yes.
However, if you're lucky enough to have a few boxes tucked away and you forget about it, I find when the cellophane goes yellow,
yes, I agree.
and that's probably somewhere between 10 and 20 years.
Yes.
That's when you begin to detect the change, and you know what amazes me with Davidoff is they do not lose personality as a consequence of aging. Even after 20, 25 years, it's an attribution for the cellophane, of course.
Yes, yes.
But I think it's the way you've dealt with the tobacco all the way up to the point you roll them as well.
I agree.
That
Would you
really
say?
plays in.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me.
Please, of course.
Would you say that there's anything special about the way that the tobacco is fermented that locks it maybe more than, say, with Cuban tobacco, which is known for evolving dramatically as it ages?
Yes, I think so. So basically, I think two very important steps of all the other ones is already the sorting. So we do already the sorting when we harvest the leaves. So already by harvesting the leaves, we do the sorting according to the grade. Right, so Volado, Seco, Visa, Ligero. So we do already this sorting in the ranchos where there's the first curing, during the fermentation and so on. So we know exactly which leaves needs the exact amount of time in the fermentation piles. And that is something that we have to do to get the optimum out of each tobacco leaf. Yeah. If you don't do it, you don't have this perfect fermentation, I would say. So fermentation is something very important. Then we leave the tobacco age. So we know exactly the time the tobacco needs to sleep. We do a second fermentation to wake the tobacco a bit up, you know, to make it active again. 45 days, depending on the variety. And then we bring it to the cigar roller. So the tobacco is in a perfect state to be crafted into the cigar.
Yeah.
So, and You see here, we say that excellence doesn't take time. It's like 111 years, right? That we had here, that we spent behind this. So time is. I always say, if you ask me what is the most important ingredient in a cigar, I always say it's time. Time you give the tobacco, yes, and of course time to enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I mean, this is Eddie. I mean, you are a master of nuance. How would you describe the flavor evolution as you're smoking through this? I mean, we're past the first third into the second. Would you indulge us in some of your poetry?
No, you're very kind, Kirby. You know, I'm picking up notes which I traditionally find in stronger blends. I'm now starting to come across a little bit of gaminess. And for me, gaminess is a delicious feature of a well-blended cigar, because it's a little bit more up in the nasal part of the palate. It's more volatile somehow.
Yes.
There's a little hint of the iron that you would find in blood. That's why I think the gaminess comes through. But that's sitting very nicely within this creamy envelope. The creaminess has not disappeared, but what has changed is the notes that are becoming more prominent in that.
Yes.
And it's getting more complex.
Yes. Yes.
It's developing in strength. For me now, this is a medium plus.
Yes, that's how we rate it as well.
I think so. And at no point has it become unpleasant or in any way unbalanced. It's continued that amazing transition.
And here, you know, we're getting an incredible just array and spectrum of flavors. It's not overpowering. It's still soft on the palate. It still has that elegance, that delicacy, that subtlety, but somehow within that, a fantastic complexity. This is a real masterpiece, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you.
A real treat.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for indulging us. You know, and speaking to the accoutrement, right, since, you know, I'm with two legends in the tobacco business, I must ask, maybe if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment and speaking to your lighter. Because I see, you know, each of you have, you know, very, very distinctive, clearly special lighters. And, you know, I love the accoutrement.
Okay.
And so,
Sam.
So I have still an old Davidoff lighter. This is actually like an older version, an older Davidoff lighter version. And what I love about it is the gold color that is matching the wedding ring. So I'm a bit like looking at the match, and it's just like elegant and you know, it's interesting that you asked this, but it becomes like your baby, you know, like you want to carry it with you. So I was thinking, because I was flying in, shall I take it with me or not? And I thought I want the lighter also to experience a bit this unforgettable moment. So
how long have you had it? When did you acquire that?
this is more than 8 years old.
Yeah.
So and still working perfectly and very much in love with this.
Oh yes. It's a beautiful lighter.
Thank you.
Well, I, as with most things in my life, have my father to thank for this one. And indirectly, and probably very directly, Davidoff. This is a series that Davidoff used to do where they had various exotic woods inlaid.
Yes, I see.
This is, I believe, a Thuya or a Bubinga. This would have been in the 80s, and it's, of course, a Dupont made for Davidoff. It's got the Davidoff underneath here.
Yes.
What I love about it, of course, it's personalized with ES. You know, my father did it for himself, but conveniently it works for me and my son.
Okay.
And it doesn't ping because of the change in the wood.
Okay.
But it does have the cigar burner on it.
Yes, yes.
That was a requisite for my father. And like you, this has lived for years. This is, as far as I remember, my father using it, and in recent years he gifted it to me. So I absolutely love that, and you probably recognize it from some of the old catalogs of Davidoff.
I do. But you know, even holding it and thinking of all the stories or all the moments, you know, I mean, it's very emotional, right? The lighter.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lighter is, you know, one of the closest parallels to a watch, you know, a timepiece that you are able to, cherish and enjoy in your own lifetime, but whenever the moment becomes ripe, to pass that on, to a son. And, there's an incredible sentimentality to that.
Yes.
And one of the things I love about accessories like this is, the accumulation of moments that they are, what's the word? Anyway, the accumulation of moments that in some ways, what's the word? Damn it.
Embellish?
No, when it's like it's they're well seated, but there's another word for that, So we'll cut that out, I'll say it over. I love, how a lighter, an accessory like this that's been used over years and decades, accumulates these moments that almost become, and really do become a part of that.
Yes.
It's living memory.
Yes, I agree.
Kirby, what's that beautiful lighter you're using?
I wanted to ask the same.
Conveniently out of gas now. But this, so Eddie, Edward, and I sitting here in these chairs often dreamt of the moment that we would be able to travel to Cuba together. And my first trip to Cuba was last year in 2023 with Edward and Eddie. And, your father often speaks of the gold dust as being one of his favorite lighters. And so I gifted myself with the gold dust. And then we were working with DuPont on doing something special, a factory tour. And so I was able to somehow get them to agree to doing a platinum dust, which is the first time that they've ever done that as part of their catalog. And not just a platinum dust, but a platinum dust as a Legrand cling.
Nice.
And so we had the privilege of filming this being made at their factory as part of a factory tour. And this is going to be available very generously to us as a exclusive limited edition series of 30.
Wow.
So I'm
Sorry, 28, surely, because
yes,
Sam and
28,
I
that's
will
right. Well, the problem is that I'll be hard pressed to even sell these because I'll be giving them away as gifts because this is, such a unique and special lighter that, a friend of mine says, one of the greatest luxuries in life is sharing one's passions.
Yes, I agree.
And, we're enjoying that now, but I find, a gift that is appreciated and that's special is more valuable than the cost of whatever it is that you're giving when given to the right person.
I agree.
Kirby, can we take a closer
No,
look at it?
please, yeah.
Sam, why don't you have a...
Well, I had the
quite
pleasure
heavy.
to look at it. Exactly. I like weight on it, but I think it's beautiful. And what I love is that you always see something different, It's like with art, right? With art, I love paintings where you look at it, you always see something different. And you can just look at it for hours, And I think here you have the same effect.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Well, one of the things I loved
Can
about
be
the gold
stars.
dust was the play on light of the gold dust. And here you have that kind of manifested in the platinum dust. So
It's a constellation, you're looking up at stars.
Yes.
Not that we see very many in London these days, but
nor in Dallas.
that's stunning.
Yeah.
Please,
And it will cling when that's a prototype, and so it doesn't.
Kirby, can I put it on camera here that I would like to put my name down as a paying customer to purchase one of these when it's available?
I wouldn't possibly allow it, but I would trade it for more great moments like this tonight. Well, Sam, thank you so much.
It was a real pleasure.
I must, say, and I would imagine I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. Thank you to, of course, you, but the entire Davidoff team for just continuing to indulge us. Those that truly love cigars, love the time spent enjoying a cigar in great company with these incredible creations. And I have to say, hats off to you, to the team in Geneva, and certainly, in some ways, most importantly, to the team in the Dominican Republic,
Yes, I agree.
on the plantations, at the
agree.
factory, that really share their excellence with us in these absolutely incredible creations. And this is a penultimate cigar.
Oh, thank you so much. There's nothing to add. I will pass on these lovely compliments to the team in Basel, in Dominican Republic, and also in Honduras. We do also the cigars in Honduras. Course, But thank you very much for this really compliments, and this really means a lot. Yeah.
May I then take the opportunity to finish with a toast? A toast to, oh, I'm sorry, Kirby.
I still have a sip. I still have
You
it.
still have a sip. Can I toast to friendship, to the finest things in life, in Zeno's immortal words?
Yes.
Only the best, really. A paraphrase, I know, but it's true. And may we always have these moments together. Kirby, Sam, Camus, and Davidoff. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
That is sweet.